In trading, I have met many people, and many of them thought they were acting like professionals, but that wasn't the case. They behaved more like amateurs, and only a few of them actually became professionals or pros, you know. I don't mean profitable, but that it was already their livelihood, that they could trade like professionals, literally, you know, because not everyone actually trades like a professional. Today, we could maybe get a little closer to what that's really about, right? What does it mean to me when I say you trade like a pro? So what is hidden behind this, behind the phrase I trade like a pro, you know? So first of all is that a person or a pro plans ahead. You know, a pro usually doesn't just react to a situation that suddenly arises like, oh, I see something here right now, and in this moment I emotionally jump into a trade, you know. Simply no, they don't do that. They don't handle the entry emotionally, but instead they plan it out. And if things go according to their scenario, then the entry is automatic. It's predetermined. Basically, there's actually no room not to enter either. There's simply a set scenario. And if the market develops according to that scenario, then the professional enters. It is, and he will give you a clear and detailed example when the price eventually returns to retest that important SR zone. Even if it has entered, the professional trader does absolutely nothing at all. They wait for the reaction, expecting that there will be another reaction at that support resistance level. They don't interfere with the trades, they don't set break even, they don't move the take profit, they don't move the stop loss. They know exactly what to do and follow their plan. That's very important. Retail traders watch the charts a lot, you know. No, they don't plan, but they watch, you know, and they watch the chart, and now they see something they like, and now they get a good feeling about it, and now they enter the trade, you know. They enter based on their feelings, as I often say, and not according to any plan or scenario. They aim high, but they're basically building it all on expectations of the market, you know. That's not what a pro does. They measure themselves by performance, you know, not by feelings like I have a feeling, but simply by the given fact. And that's also the difference between an amateur and a professional or a pro. We don't measure ourselves by how much we have in our account, how much is left there. But according to some table, according to some data, you know, even a bad trade is sometimes actually good, or rather a losing trade is okay. It's simply part of a plan. And I don't plan to have 100% of my trades in take profit. It's simply a story that as long as it follows some plan, it's absolutely fine to take a stop loss now and then. Professionals keep a journal. They evaluate that journal, and they also make statistics from it. And it's not about like now I feel bad and making excuses. I don't know. Like today, the sun is reflecting off my monitor, so I'm not gonna trade. No, I didn't see the charts there, or I didn't have time for it. A real professional doesn't behave like that. Another thing is patience is a tool but not a weakness. Yeah, that's also true. Most of you simply don't have patience. I'm not exactly a model of patience myself, but I've come to understand that everything takes its time, and I think it's Buffett who says that money moves from the impatient to the patient. Yeah, and I really think that's absolutely true. These words made me reflect on my own patience. I'm not extremely impatient, but I'm also not the type of person who's completely patient. Still, I've learned to work with it in some way. And even in this respect, it has made me a somewhat better person. You don't have to be trading every single day, you know. It's not necessary to always be in a trade. I simply wait for my own setup, And only when that setup appears do I actually trade it. It's not about being in a trade at all costs or constantly having to be in some position. That's not really how it works. Professionals simply don't do it that way, you know. Sometimes there are longer trades, sometimes shorter ones, but it's not necessary to always be in a trade. It can happen, and especially that I don't have a trade for 3 days, and there's nothing unusual. I enter, and when I do, of course, I wait for my scenario. There are clear rules for entering, clear rules for exiting, and there's really not much for me to make up. It's simply a routine that just repeats over and over again. And that's the right direction, you know. A trader often feels that they have to be constantly active, right? If they're not active, they feel like nothing is happening, that they're not doing anything to make money. But that's just not how the markets work. It's not the right approach, you know. A person should really approach it in such a way that they have to wait for their setup and only then enter with clearly defined rules. And those rules need to be repeated over and over again. They don't have a conceptual grasp of money management. The professionals know this very well, you know. They know exactly what their stop loss is, how much it is, and they always and consistently stick to these things without changing them. For them, it's simply 1% of the account. That's just standard and a normal thing. It's nothing like that. It's not like today I feel better, today I like it more, so I'll use a bigger lot size, or today I'm not feeling it, maybe it won't work out. I've already had 2 stop losses, so now I'll use half the lot size and things like that. No, a professional just doesn't behave like that. A professional systematically goes about it, just doing the same thing over and over again. And retail traders, in fact, aren't really after profit. Most of the time, they're trying to make up for their losses. Yeah, so it's like I've had 2 stop losses here. Now I need a profit to make up for that loss. This kind of thinking, this kind of mindset is already wrong. Yeah, it's basically a road to hell, you know. As soon as I take a trade just to make up for my losses, that's not a good path. And a trader simply can't think like that. A professional works more on themselves, on their mindset, on their habits. It's not about just looking for opportunities. Professionals mainly work on themselves. They work on their mindset, on their habits. Yeah, that's the main job of a professional. And of course, seeking out those situations, those scenarios that would appeal to them for trading. But the retail trader, the non-professional, really approaches it from a completely different angle. And their priorities are completely different. They think that their performance basically equals a systematic trade. Nothing unusual, really, just something they keep repeating over and over, something they've already experienced in the market, and basically just keep repeating it again and again. And that becomes the routine. That's not usually the case with non-professionals. They usually try to discover something new there, or it reminds them of something, but they don't have set rules and they don't operate according to these established set rules. Retail traders are heavily influenced by things like red news, like a red left sock, like the broker. There's a lot of talk about luck there, you know. Those are things you rarely hear from a professional. Luck, in general, is always necessary, and it's always great when someone has it. Or, on the other hand, it's worse when someone is unlucky, when they go through a streak of bad luck. But I guess it just depends on the person. If I have a trump card, then it really doesn't matter what I do. But if I'm just an ordinary, average person, then I think things like bad luck or good luck just don't really play that much of a role here. And one of the last things is that pro is not a genius. Yeah, it's not some kind of genius. They're just disciplined. That person simply knows exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. That's also something that really sets professionals apart from amateurs. So, to sum it up a little, that's everything that separates a professional from, I don't want to say an amateur, but from not being a professional.